Welcome everybody to PTR TV for The Racer's Mind episode 7. Have a special night for us tonight. It is the broadcast about podcast, but no, I said that backwards. This is going pretty well already. It's the podcast about broadcast, and we get some special guests with us tonight from Global Sim Racing Channel. We have Joe Peak, and from a small channel you may not know, but if you don't know him, you should. Sim TV, Kyle Hare, and Finian. I'll say the last name because I don't want to screw it up.
Vicuna.
There we go, because I was going to say that wrong. So it's going to be a whole topic, as you can see on the left side of your screen. We got some topics we want to go over tonight over the iRacing broadcast community. It's for us that are in the business, a lot has changed, and even as a viewer or someone, a league owner, a lot has changed over the years, and even over the last year in 2018 a lot has changed. So it's going to be interesting to do a night of kind of getting a lot of different inputs on what is a rather large part of iRacing. So PTR TV, I'm sure you know who I am, Corey Silva. I mean, PTR TV also merging on LSR TV, so you see me and Evan Black on Mondays and Tuesday nights covering our leagues on that channel. This channel is kind of taking a back seat to that, but I'll let Joe kind of give a little introduction of who he is and where you can find him and stuff like that.
Well, I obviously am from Global Sim Racing Channel. We started about 5 years ago. I'm the head of staffing, and I'm also a commentator and sometimes director. I know some people call it producer now. I guess that, I'm not sure if that's like becoming a wide term or what, but we've always called them directors. Yeah, I guess you can find us at globalsimracingchannel.com or on our YouTube, which is just Global Sim Racing, or actually, is it GS? I should know my own channel name, actually. I think it's just Global Sim Racing Channel. I can never remember if it's that or GSRC Broadcasting. I have to double check.
But being the as we just discussed, the second largest channel on iRacing in terms of subs count. I think people know about you. We'll have links in the description for those if they don't. But now the Sim TV guys, why don't you let the viewers know about you?
Yeah, I'm Kyle Hire, producer slash director slash commentator over at Sim TV. We're a new channel that started back in February of 2018, and so far things are going pretty well for us, but we're new on the block and trying to do some new and creative things with broadcasting and trying to take it to the next level. Trying to bring something new to the table and kind of expand the market here for iRacing and simulations in general.
And Finnegan, if you got anything you want to add for you guys, anyways.
Well, yeah, I'm Finian Vicuna. I'm the other commentator. I really don't know what other titles I would have besides commentator, so we'll stick with commentator for now. But yeah, just the other commentator at Sim TV, like Kyle said, started in February 2018. We're relatively new guys on the block, and yeah, pretty much the same thing he said.
All right, so as you can see on the left side, that is the introduction, so we're making progress here tonight. We'll start the actual topics off with just a generic statement on the state of the broadcast community. So what do I mean by that? I mean just the entire topic of broadcasting as a whole, from where it started to where it is now, and just how we feel the opinions of it. I mean, it started, I think, Joe, you probably know this more than me. I think it started back in 2009, 2010. That's when Peak and, well, it wasn't even Peak at the time, but the big iRacing official races got covered, and then the overlays kind of opened up, and we got some LSR TV, we got RacePod, and obviously things have changed and things have gotten simpler and more out there to the users. So now there's a lot more people on the block now. So just if you guys had to make a blanket statement as to how you feel broadcasting is just overall, how would you describe it?
I would say it's improving a lot. The quality all around has just been going up and up, and we're happy to see that, because I mean that was kind of our goal from the start, is just to bring up the quality of what's possible. I'm very encouraged because I just watched the link that someone had posted on the forum of the Gran Turismo broadcast that they did, and I thought that was excellent. I know there was a lot of people that didn't like it, but I thought it was very good. There was just a few little things that I thought they could use to improve, but they're really small nitpicks in the grand scheme. And I'm kind of hopeful because if companies are starting to be willing to put money into that, I think that's good for everyone because. We were talking about before we went live, for some of us, this is becoming a job and a career.
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, being the new guys on the block, we're just a group of college kids here. And Finian kind of came up with this idea. I saw a post on Reddit, actually, from the Sim Championship Racing series, which is one of the groups we still work with. And yeah, we started out that way, but now it is kind of a job. But Joe mentioned it. I feel like it is growing, and I think that's evident by looking at our email inbox on any given day. And there's always people looking for broadcasts, and I feel like there's a growing market for it. And as Joe said, the quality has definitely come up, and I think that's partially due to the competition as well. I mean, there's a lot of competition, especially in the lower end of the market. I mean, right now, I don't think anybody competes with GSRC, RaceSpot, and LSR TV. They're kind of in a league of their own. But at the lower end of the spectrum, I think there's a lot of competition, and that's kind of forcing people to get more creative with what they bring to the table in a broadcast.
Oops, a little pop-up there on the screen people didn't need to see. But, yeah, so going on that topic of the things improving, how much time and kind of a little insight to what we people do behind the scenes as a producer or even a director. We're all working together. I mean, obviously we're here all today helping doing this, but we all work together. But at the same time, if there's a league out there on a Friday night, for example, and I want it and you want it, we do kind of have to, we have to one-up each other. Well, oh, hey, they have that on their overlays. I need that on my overlays. Or they're doing music in there. Well, I need better. Like, we really do, as friendly as we all are, it is really a battle. And I don't know about you guys, but I spent, past tense, a lot of time in my day watching other people's streams just to try to see, well, what are they doing or that I'm not, and what are they doing better, or what am I doing better than they are doing?
I'd say that's a big reason why we've seen the quality go up is because of that sort of attitude, and I think it's a good thing, honestly. And probably because, if anything, I don't feel like anybody's really aping anybody else. We're not seeing a whole lot in the way of like copycats. They see what they're doing, saying, okay, well, we bring this flavor to the table, so why don't we put our own spin on it? And so if anything, I encourage that sort of competition. I think it's healthy, and like you said, you almost have to anymore. Just kind of keep an eye on what other people are doing, or you get left behind.
Yeah, I think it also has to do with, like, we're talking about how it's been growing as broadcast in general, is that it's forcing, because there's so many broadcasters that are out there, and this is kind of what me and Kyle are going through. You're trying to figure out, how do we stand out amongst the sea of broadcasters that are available for everyone to choose from, and how do we be unique?
And I'm really glad you said that, because I do have set up, and I told you guys, if you look to the left of this beautiful face on your screen, you'll see a YouTube box. I just had a little bit of footage from GSRC showing, just as a something for visual, but this is something that you guys, Kyle and Finian, worked on, your interactive track map, to kind of, so that's what they do in real life. It's tell the people who maybe don't know, and maybe it's a family member, they don't know sim racing, they don't know the track, so something that it just takes it to the next level, takes it to, the professional edge. And this is something that nobody has in this kind of detail.
Yeah, this was something that kind of, back in high school, I used to play around a lot with a program called Blender, and it's basically a 3D modeling and rendering program. And I kind of had this idea after watching a Formula One race, watching their track guides. I thought they were super interesting and cool. And so I just kind of got into Blender one day and pulled up a track map and started modeling the track spline, and it kind of merged back into this what you're seeing on screen right now. And I think it turned out pretty good. I mean, it's definitely unique. It's not something I see a lot on broadcasts, but they are super labor intensive, especially for the road courses. So we don't have them for all of our broadcasts yet, but hopefully over the course of time we'll start adding up a collection of more of them, because they do take a long time to make.
And
yeah, it amused me when you brought that up because that's kind of how our lap guides have gone. I mean, I'm the one that has to make those, by the way, and it's the same thing. It's just over 5 years we've kind of collected a whole bunch. I think I'm trying to remember what the number was up to. It's a ridiculous amount that I have on my hard drive, but it does get easier as you go on. And honestly, kudos to you guys. As soon as I saw that, I was really wowed. That's television level stuff. That's what they do on actual TV with those sort of 3D renders. So very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. And there's still more that I want to do, and I think as we go on, and they'll get better. But I do think that it's something unique, and I like doing that kind of thing. Another thing that we're doing right now, and I probably shouldn't say this because partially this is supposed to be a secret, but I'm going to anyway, is like bringing in more promotional aspect to it. Like, you know, when you watch a NASCAR broadcast and they have that cool reveal for the NASCAR trophies. Well, right now for one of our series, the Fuel Rig Share Cup series, I'm designing a trophy in Blender that will do some kind of cool reveal for it. There'll be smoke and it'll come out of the, be shiny and metal looking, and it just kind of have a little animation of this trophy. Because, sim racing, you don't really associate it with trophies and things, and obviously it's not something that'll actually get produced, but just the visual aspect of it, the sex appeal to it, is something that I think that broadcasts could chase more, and I think that's where we're going to start heading as well. Yeah,
and that's something that once you get, and I know you guys especially, you have some leagues that have big car counts and some good reputations, and that's what it takes for a small channel. Is we got it on PTR TV back, I want to say it was September. It was a big league on LSR TV, Super Speedway Cup Series, and most people know that Super Speedway Series, they tend to get a lot of views. They may not be the best race for us to watch because, most of the time they're upside down every other lap under caution, but for some reason Super Speedway races get a ton of views, especially when they're big leagues. And it was their DXT series. It was kind of a development series for their big LSR TV league, and we got it, and that got us 100, 200 subscribers just off of that. We were getting 700-800 views a video on a small channel just because you get that break. And when you get that break, that's what lets you show off that stuff you're doing, and then eventually, that's where you try to grow. And I say try because that kind of leads me into the next topic, and I think, Kyle, you had mentioned it a little bit earlier. As a small channel trying to stick out of the weeds and trying to show that you're different and you have something to offer, where we do have so many channels, that is not as easy as maybe it was 5-6 years ago when there was only a couple to kind of fight between.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, we've had some really good luck with a lot of the groups that we've worked with, and again, it's just Finian and I, so we don't have another group of broadcasters, so we can only take on as much as we can do. But it's interesting because we weren't really around back when there was fewer broadcasters, but I think there's definitely a clear market division in how much people are willing to pay, and right now we're probably farther down on the totem pole in terms of what we're charging than a lot of other groups, which has helped a lot. And but I think that's not sustainable forever. So I think at some point we're gonna have to go up market a little bit. But I definitely think that if you're a league that charges for entries, that charges to run in the season, you're gonna look for a higher quality broadcast because it's something you can afford. Whereas if you're just running a league for fun with friends, then you're going to be looking lower down to try to see if you can save a couple dollars here and there. So I feel like there's enough work out there, but again, I think we've had some really good luck working with groups that kind of all talk to each other, and most of the groups that we work with now, actually all of them, have been referred from one to the next pretty much directly by members that are in all of the above leagues. So that's kind of how we've gotten most of our share so far.
Yeah, and I know on the PTR TV side, it's just, I know with the money, I know exactly what you're talking about, Kyle. There was a point where we started, I think my pricing is, in the beginning, was what you guys charged. We slowly worked our way up, but I kind of noticed that you have, and I'm not totally sure what you guys charge, Joe, but I know on the LSR TV, the race spot side, they are up there, and I'm not saying, because we know what it is, I'm not saying anything that anybody charges is unjust. We know what goes into it, so we know that it takes money to run a company, it takes money to make it worth doing the work you have to do. So, but it does seem that, and I'm going to throw the number out there right around like $45 that seems to be the point where between 40 and 60-ish, you'll get everyone wants to spend like 20 to 30, and then you get the people who have no problem spending 70, 80, but it seems like right in the middle, I had a really hard time getting leagues to pay that amount per race, and I never could really figure out why.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably just for the people who we kind of have to start with from starting from nothing really, is like getting the guys who don't really want to pay too much and like get a beginning broadcast, getting like the basics, commentary, cameras, and what have you. But like, I guess as you go up, people want to pay more because they feel like they're getting a more premium product like RaceBot and the like.
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you mentioned that, Finian, because I feel like in our point right now, we only have 215 subscribers or something like that, so we're still very tiny in the broadcasting spectrum. But I think that's why I don't think we could justify saying, hey, $40-$45 pay up, because we don't have the audience. And I feel like that's, maybe that doesn't matter because some groups don't care and it's just, well, I'll just pay the fee, I just want to watch the race later. But for some, the audience does matter. And part of our battle is getting more people to watch, because I do think that that our viewership could be better. It's just getting the broadcast out there, and I think iRacing Live is one way to do that. I think we had one race on iRacing Live. It was the Driver Suicide Prevention 250 at Talladega, and we had like double the views on that and got like 30 or 40 subscribers in one night. Wow. Just from that channel. Nice. Or just from that broadcast. So that's like, if we could do more of that, we'd be doing great, but that's a little harder than it sounds, at least at our stage.
Yeah, that it takes a long time to build, and it's very much like a snowball thing, because that exposure and that word of mouth definitely helps build it. We have actually made a concerted effort in the past maybe 8 to 10 months to really work on our social media for that very reason. Like you said, just getting more subscribers, more views. Because in the past we had kind of just been a little lazy about that and relied on people just spreading word of mouth. And we have seen a significant rise, honestly. A big credit to Sean Ambrose. He's our social media guy, who's just been busting his butt to get the word out there. And honestly, I'm trying to remember, because we passed the 6,000 subscribers mark within this year, I think it was, something like that, and we just crossed 7,000. So the momentum is growing, and we're all kind of wowed at how much just putting the effort into the social media helps that.
Yeah, because obviously if people don't know that your race is there, and that kind of goes to the saturation point as well, more in a negative ways. So let's take the company side out, take the company hat off, and let's put the viewer hat on for a second.
Okay.
I'm just laying in bed, it's 9 o'clock at night, I want to kill an hour on YouTube, and I like iRacing, so I have 4 or 5 channels, maybe 6, whatever, subscribed to, because I raced in a couple leagues and they had broadcasts, so I followed the channel. So what, as a viewer, is your determining factor? What makes you see a race on PTR TV, you see a race on GSRC, you see a race on Sim TV, you see a race on Max Speed, you see a race on RaceBot, you see a race on insert channel that no one's ever heard of, but someone does it because they just started yesterday here. What makes you choose GSRC's race over PTR TV's race versus, you know what I mean? How do you choose what to watch when you don't really have any affiliation or knowledge about any of the races that are going on? Like, how do I choose to be that viewer that's just trying to learn about this race? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there's a couple factors that make me want to stick around. And I think for me, the biggest one is the first impression. When you first open the link, the first thing that always sticks out is bad graphics. And it's the good graphics you don't notice. It's when they're really bad and gaudy and very, there's bright colors everywhere and it hurts to look at. I'm not going to stick around and watch that. It's a painful viewing experience, and so if there's good graphics, I'm willing to stick around and go, my eye doesn't drift to the graphics, it drifts to the on-track action. If the track has lots going on, that's going to keep me around. And then the third thing, it's about the commentary, because I can watch a race without commentary and still enjoy myself. But the commentary has to add to it and not detract from it. Honestly, a lot of it has to do, and this is kind of ironic because I hate my own voice, but it's about the voices. It's about the personalities of the people that are telling you the information, and if you don't like listening to them.
Do I want to roast one of my colleagues right now or not? Because I could drag him right up in here and talk to us, because there was a situation, and Brandon Krutz, if you are listening, because I know you're in TeamSpeak now and you said you might watch us, if you are down there, please come up and interrupt. We did actually have, and this is early January, and this is when we were growing. This is when we really started getting to be something that people actually knew about. There was a league, and I can't remember for the life of them what they are right now, but they said, we would love to have you guys on board. And mind you, there's three of us, myself, Evan Black, and Brandon Krutz. He said, please, we will have you, but you and Evan need to commentate. We can't listen to Brandon's voice. And Brandon, he is someone that he has that broadcaster high, like, exciting voice, but it really just depends on, like you kind of said, Kyle, it's personal taste. Some people I know, like RaceBot, for example, or maybe even you guys, Joe, if you cover an oval race but you're a road course channel, even if you know exactly what's going on, some people, they don't want to hear a European voice covering a NASCAR race, even if they know everything and the commentary's perfect. Some people are just, it's just, if that's not what you like, you don't want to do it.
We had that very complaint once, actually. That one of the leagues, we have a guy named Samuel Ryman who grew up in the UK, but moved over to the eastern United States when he was like 7 or 8 years old. So he's been over here for quite a while, but he knows oval racing. Like the guy is just great with his oval racing knowledge. He follows NASCAR religiously. And so I have no qualms putting him on there. But we had a short track series that when we had him on a race, they came back and said, we want someone more American sounding.
What was it? It was the majors, the Knoxville Nationals not too long ago, and I remember turning on RaceSpot, and Jake Sperry is an amazing commentator. He did a race for a couple of my leagues back that I used to run in. He's a great commentator, but when I pulled up Knoxville and I heard Jake Sperry commentating that, he did a phenomenal job, but it's just kind of a juxtaposition. It's like him, this, huh? But that's the kind of thing. I mean, if you have someone who's just, that could affect your viewers, even though it shouldn't. But just kind of a blanket statement to wrap this topic up, guys. Do you think, if there was, maybe back in the day, there was 3 races going on tonight, there was a race spot, there was an LSR, there was a GSRC, XYZ, just having 3 maybe races a night, and maybe not even at different times, they're just segmented during the day, is that better, or is it better to have what we have now, which is a lot of channels, but instead of having 50, 60, 100 people watching, maybe we have 8, 5, 10 watching a bunch of small? Which one do you actually think is better for the community? I know it's probably a hard one to answer.
Well, I mean, we're mimicking TV, and TV has constant. Every channel has something on constantly, and granted, they're a lot more widespread. But I don't feel like it should be a negative thing if we all have something on. Because I mean, that's, if anything, I would say that's probably the end goal of any of the broadcasters that are looking to make this a full-time job, is you have programming on 24/7. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. Honestly, I think it's better if we all have stuff on all the time.
Yeah, I think certainly for us right now, the way position we're in, it's better to have a lot of the smaller groups. But I do see there is an advantage, I think, to having less groups do more, just because it's an organizational thing. I mean, think about everyone's YouTube subscriptions inbox right now. You go in there, and if you're like me, you have 30, 40, 50 videos every day that you want to get through, like you have in your subscription box. And if you're subscribed to, 30 different sim racing channels,
you're not going to get to all of them.
You're not going to get to all of them. I think it's more of a consolidation thing. Like, I'm not going to go and watch 20 different broadcasts. But
I think the definition, or the distinction is, what's better for the individual channels, what's better for the viewer, and what's better for iRacing. Because I think all 3 of them kind of may have different answers. It really depends how you want to look at it. For iRacing, I think it's probably better to have everyone concentrated like you have the peak nights. You'll have 1,000 people on Facebook, 600 on YouTube. I think those are better for iRacing, to have everyone just watching that one event. But obviously for our channels, if you can sneak 3 or 4 people off this broadcast to get them onto yours, because maybe yours is, it's better put together, then that's obviously better for you. I think it just really depends on how you want to, whose side you're kind of playing on, I guess.
Well, and that's kind of what they're trying to do with the iRacing Esports Network, is they're trying to get everything focused on there. We just joined up on that alongside of RaceSpot V8s and LSR TV. And I mean, we've been working with them for the past month or two, figuring out, scheduling and try to get, various series of ours on there. And I mean, generally that just seems to kind of like the goal of theirs is, like you said, to just get everything focused. And I actually think that's not a bad idea, since we do have these 4 different companies, and it's a lot easier to tackle that kind of problem with 4 different companies than just one, because you need a huge staff for something like that.
Yeah, so I've been trying really hard to segue these topics pretty well, and I think I kind of did it in the last sentence where I said we're talking about what it's a better broadcast. So what if we talk about what actually makes a good broadcast? Now this kind of goes as kind of a 2-part thing of what makes a good broadcast for the viewer, but what makes a good broadcast from somebody in the booth, because watching a race is completely different as a spectator than having to watch it and making it interesting from the actual commentary side. So as a viewer,
I'd actually disagree. I'd say it's the same thing. Your goal should be to entertain the viewer as the broadcaster. I don't know. Just coming, because I actually come from a filmmaking background.
Oh wow!
And so to me, it's, if you're, I mean, there's some things that are more enjoyable, but your end goal is to make something entertaining for the viewer. At least it is in our case. So I don't think they should be separated at all.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I always kind of think about when I'm broadcasting a race is Finian and I, our first broadcast that we ever did, we deleted it because it was a terrible one, but we tried it. It was tape delayed, so we got a second chance. But we tape delayed it, so we had another chance to do it. But we were awful commentators, and we didn't make the race exciting. We watched it back like, this is the worst thing I think I've ever seen on YouTube, period. So, but now I think what we've just kind of decided to do is Finian and I watch these races as if we're just sitting down on the couch in our apartment watching a NASCAR race on Sunday. We're fans. We're putting ourselves in the spectator's seat, and we're just telling people what's happening. We're not trying to be Rick Allen, or we're not trying to be Darrell Waltrip. We're not trying too hard. We're trying to just be 2 guys that are watching a race, sharing the excitement that we see on the track.
Yeah, and that's what brings out the personality, which goes back to how you grow your channel, is people listen for the commentary. I guess more I was going with that is we've all had our races that, mainly on the oval side, where you have a Talladega race, I guess, like I said, super speedway race, where you go 3 laps, and there's a wreck, they're upside down, and we all know a caution at Talladega, you have 7.5 minutes of pacing that you have to cover. And you do that 2, 3, 4 times, and most of us have commercials, but you don't want to go to commercial all the time. So you have those races which you really have to dig deep, because you know you have to keep entertained. You want to keep that viewer, and that really tests you as a commentator and as a channel, is how can these guys fill all this air, not just sound like, idiots just waffling on about random stuff, not getting too off topic, but still being engaged. But then you also have the races as a viewer, which those are the races that can make your channel. If you luck out and you have a good league that, has a 10-lap battle to the end that ends in a photo finish, if you can nail those races that actually they're genuinely exciting, those are also the races that'll spike your views.
One thing that you brought to mind actually is, have any of you guys done any of the endurance races before covering that?
No.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you talked about making it interesting and making it relevant. And yes, the oval races can be difficult. If anything, the ones where we've covered some of the 24-hour stuff, some of the races that we've done where If it's longer than like 4 hours, we'll actually split up teams. So we'll have 2 commentary teams, one to intro and one to outro. Usually no more than 3 hours. And those are a real test of exactly what you're talking about. Of you learn how to keep the conversation going, how to keep it relevant, look for things on track. The director is actually a big part of that. We found that having a good director who is helping feed you guys some things, if he sees stuff, things like that, it's very much possible. It's just, it takes a lot of good chemistry, like you said, being really comfortable with those in the booth and kind of knowing where they're going and being able to feed off of each other is really good. And having a really not having a voice that wears out too quickly, because you're talking a whole lot longer.
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. We're having commentators who cover stuff that, that they're known to do. If, for example, if right now you asked me and like Evan Black, we could cover a road course race, and we actually have one scheduled for next week. We can cover a road course just fine for about 2 hours. We are not the people. If someone said, hey, do you want to cover a segment of the 24, or do you want to cover a 6-hour enduro? I'm very politely going to tell you hell no. But I'm not going to say that to be rude. I'm going to say it because I know, for my sake and well-being, and for the sake that I know 2.5 hours in, I'm going to be sitting there. I got to go to the bathroom. I'm hungry. Everyone's separated by 15, 20 seconds. I'm not the guy that can do that.
So for me, there's a few things in here that I found, because we try to take on anything as far as GSRC goes, any type of racing. And me being in charge of staffing, I try my best. Sometimes I'm limited because people's schedules are hard to work around, but like I try my best to put the right people on, the right broadcast. Bill Zahn is a good, everyman. He could cover road, he can cover oval, whatever you want to stick him on. Same thing with Sean. Then I've got someone like Tanner Sharp, who's very, very much more comfortable on the oval side, and I usually would only stick them on something road if we're desperate, sort of thing. And then the other thing that I found in this too is that I always tell people, because I interview people who come in and want to get hired to be on GSRC, and I always tell them that I ask what they're familiar with, and I tell them that being versatile is much, much better. Because again, we get everything, and we could stick you on just about anything. So it's better to be prepared. And my advice for anybody who wants to do that, just start consuming racing. Like, I love watching just racing. And that's how I learned to do some of the endurance commentaries, because I started getting into endurance racing, and I saw how they listened to how they did it. And you pick up things just from watching how professionals work and paying attention and breaking down how they put together a broadcast at the top tier.
Yeah, actually, that's Finian. I'll let you have it in a second. I was just going to say real quick that to your point, Joe, Finian and I, we watch racing as every time there's a race on TV, we have it on. And it's IMSA, it's Formula One, it's NASCAR. Mm-hmm. I was watching a Well and Modified race the other day.
Oh, nice.
And kind of getting that differentiation and trying to understand how different kinds of motorsports broadcasts are brought is important for us, because we do GT racing leagues, we do IndyCar, we do NASCAR, so we kind of do a little bit of everything. But again, for the Ferrari side of the thing, like we do GT3 Challenge, that's a lot more like a strategic thing. NASCAR's more about the close quarters racing, but I guess with a lot of the endurance stuff, you're not talking so much about what corner they're entering. It's more about the long-term strategy. Yeah, it takes more than just. You have to kind of know what you're talking about. Like last night, we were doing an Indy race, Indianapolis, 125 laps, and this is our fault for not doing the research. We had no idea how far an Indy car could go on fuel at Indianapolis. We should have known that. But that's the kind of thing, like you don't realize you don't know until you try to broadcast it.
Yeah, Evan and I, we have that happen all the time on our Monday night broadcast, especially because those guys, it's a cup league. They follow the cup schedule, 50% races, and they go green flag all the time. And our entire race is, they have some pretty good battles, but it's all about is it going to be a 2-stop race? Is it going to be a 3-stop race? All right, so this guy, what lap is he going to pit? Is he going to stretch the fuel load? And it really takes a completely different call versus, like, I'll go back to Brandon. He loves dirt racing, so he loves that it's constant action. So it takes the guy of, you have to have that strategic mindset. You have to have that, that quick call voice that knows what's going on. And when you're producing behind the scenes, you're looking for different stuff on the cameras. You're looking for side-by-side battles on ovals. You have to be really, really, really quick when there's a wreck, especially on a plate track, because you know how fast it is on the cameras to try to find it. But on a road course, like you said, you're 3.5 hours in. The teams might be separated by 45 seconds, but when is their stints? When is their driver change? It completely changes what you have to do going into it and how you have to perceive the whole night.
And for me too, it's even the track. I come from a road racing background, and we right now are about an hour and a half away from Watkins Glen. And every time we get a broadcast at Watkins Glen, my heart rate jumps up because I love that race.
Oh yeah, and literally the whole day Kyle's talking about Watkins Glen. Yeah.
Hilarious. So and when it comes down to the race, how I call the race, it depends on how much I know about the track and how familiar I am with the place. We did a cup race there at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago, and I bring into things in the conversation like downshifting, like wheel hop, and that sort of technical side of thing that you normally get from, say, Larry Mack, on the Fox side of things. That I feel like that is helpful for people, especially if they're watching a broadcast where they don't know a whole lot about the track or the car combination. So the track definitely is an important thing for me. If we go to, like, a lot of times we go to the European tracks, like we go to Imola, for example. I don't know a whole lot about, I've driven Imola, yeah, but I don't know as much as I do about Watkins Glen, and that changes how I broadcast the race.
Exactly. And so, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, part of that, again, comes down to, I guess, approach, because one of the things that we do is we will set our team to do that research. So I tell my guys that I want them to go into the forums and or the thread, if it's a specific thread for a league, and they'll get in and read what the drivers are talking about, so they know, like, what the drivers' concerns are, if there's any drama between them, rivalries, things like that. And then also, because we separate between the lead commentator, who's the more play-by-play, and the co-commentator, who's like the driver expert. I tell the co-commentator, get in the car, and drive at that track. It doesn't have to be 100 laps. Just put like a dozen laps in, and you at least have some experience to draw from and say, this is how the car is driving. This is what they're experiencing. And I think, to me, that's actually a really, really important part of making these broadcasts. Is you can't know everything, but to be informed going in goes a long way to making it seem like you know everything, even if you don't.
Yeah.
And that goes to say, when you cover more so, I know you guys, Joe, you cover actual some iRacing stuff, but when you cover private leagues, you really have to focus on the rules. You never want to be asking in the middle of the broadcast, is there a fast repair in the series? Oh, what's their fuel percentage? Is this fixed setup or open set? And then
we've been there before.
Yeah.
I also tell them to go read the rule book.
Yeah.
As boring as it is, read the rule book.
Or we have a league, and I actually, on screen right now, I have our American Sim Racing series, and they have a rule in their book, because they've been around for 15 years plus, going back to the NR 2003 days, so they are a pretty large league. And they have no one-lap shootout. So if iRacing gives it a one-lap shootout, they will waive it and end the race under caution. There has to be a green-white checker. So we had, I think, one of our first races. All right, guys, it's going to be exciting. It's green-white. It's going to be a one-lap dash. Get ready. Wait, what? It's like
that happened exactly same thing to us one time.
Did it? What race was that?
Kansas with Young Designs. Yeah, we were like, oh, here they come. It's gonna be a one-lap shootout, and then the caution came back out. It's like, oh, they're entering it under.
Yeah, and that's just the kind of stuff. I mean, you could, if you have, and you guys have that rapport, and when you have that rapport with you can goof it off and make it. I mean, I'm working on right now. I'm working on a spoof reel. I'm just trying to go back to all my broadcasts, asking drivers if there's any moments of it was really good racing, or if we were just sounded like ridiculous and it was funny. Like, I want to have a montage moment of that stuff, but that'll be funny. I like roasting myself. If you can't laugh at yourself, then that's not good. But so obviously we're talking about varied content on our channels, and when you have, and actually I think SimTV, you guys may have it now too with what you're growing, and if you have, it's a Thursday night and you know you want to pick something up and you have 2 leagues or something like that, what do you choose? How do you choose what you want on your channel? Especially if you have a selection, if you actually have a choice, if I can take this or that. What makes you choose the content that you do choose to put on your channel?
Well, I think the first thing for us that we look into is I'll go back and take a look at what the league actually does. The biggest thing for us is car count. And we had a league that we just ended a season with where the car counts over the course of the season were really, really low. And it's not fun for the viewer. It's not fun for us. So, we don't have an official number that you need to meet, but we're not in the business of broadcasting like 5 or 6 friends going racing on a Friday night.
Is it safe for me to reveal my face right now?
I don't know. But it's, that kind of thing. You need to have the car count there, 1. 2 is the kind of racing itself. I don't know anything about dirt. I probably will never know anything about dirt. I wouldn't feel comfortable broadcasting dirt. So it would be something I would try, but I would really have to put a lot of research in, go more to the local tracks, try to, I wouldn't take that right now. Would I take something like Formula 1? Finian would be better at that than I would be. So I'm more apt to take stock car stuff, IndyCar stuff, sports car stuff, because that's where my knowledge base is. I'm willing to try new things, but I think the groups that are more familiar would probably have an edge when I go to choose.
I think in addition to that, as far as like choosing what you want on a channel, is also, like you said, Kyle said it as well, the type of racing that it is. It's also a little bit important because I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to broadcast 5 different stock car leagues the entire week.
Yeah,
because I would go insane doing that. So like having a little bit of diversity in it, because it's like it almost kind of blends into one league, almost when you're doing a bunch of different stock car leagues. We haven't had that yet so far, but it gets a little bit repetitive, especially because a lot of it's the same style of racing. So you want to like kind of mix it up on the road course or different types of cars, like with IndyCar, for example, to kind of spice things up.
Yeah, actually, at one point, we were doing 2 IndyCar leagues that were only separated by a couple days.
Yeah.
And actually by 1 day. And that was a little bit dry. I don't think I would do that again.
We had a stretch in the very beginning, and this is when we're just taking whatever we had just to get content out there. I actually covered in consecutive days. I had 2 super speedway leagues in a row. And we tried, so I think we did it for about 8 weeks. We didn't have any contracts, so I emailed one of the guys and I'm like, I will do this, but I really don't want to. I'm not giving you the best content that I can give you because it's just, I mean, what is a super speedway league? And this is no disrespect to super speedway. They're fun, especially as a driver, but as a commentator, I think we can wrap up a super speedway race in like 3 lines. They're 3 wide, they wreck, photo finish. I mean, so you can only do so much of that. But yeah, I think it's just like Joe. I think you might have something to say.
Yeah, I want to hear Joe's opinion on this. He got a lot more going on over there than you do.
As far as what determines what we take, or
yeah.
So, boy, it's a bit of a process, to be honest, because, I mean, the first thing that they have to do is fit within our schedule, for one, because we're very, very full at this point. And we prefer not to double up broadcasts, just because that does split our own viewers, even though, like I said, I'm okay with, like, multiple channels all having stuff on at the same time. We ourselves want to try and focus everything to the one that's live. The next thing is, do I have the staff? If I have a pretty good feel for like who we have available when at this point, but if I'm not sure, I'll tell them, first I need to make sure that we have enough people, because not only do we need the people, but I always make sure that we have one extra. We always have a backup. Redundancies for redundancies is our ethos, GSRC. And then if that happens, from there, it's more a case of, well, are they willing to pay the cost of what we charge? Because we do offer discounts, bulk discounts, but with how we are right now, because we're trying to make this a day job for us, we're just not really willing to compromise on lowering our price for people. If they're not willing to pay it, then that's fine. There's other broadcasters and you can go to them, sort of thing. And it might sound harsh, but it's the truth. We're running a business. So So yeah, other than that, I mean, it just kind of works out right now that we have quite a bit of variety on there. We do get some repeat stuff sometimes, but and we do prefer, like, sometimes we will take into account if we already have something that's really close to what they're already asking for. But generally, most leagues kind of bring a slightly different flavor, even if they have the same cars for some things. Like we're going to have, we've got the Autobahn series that has the GTEs, the HPDs, and the LMP1s, and I think it's the same three that we've got for DGFX. We're going to be covering them here this upcoming season, but because DGFX is a lot longer races and a completely different rule set, we're totally fine with having both of those on our channel.
Yeah, Joe, you did bring up something in there, and it brought me to something that I know from something that I work with personally, where you brought about you have to make sure that you have the staffing for it. And I know some channels, there's more than one. It's almost like an airline ticket sales type thing where you see something come up, all right, we'll take it, and then you figure out the logistics of it, and then you boil into a situation where you're trying to find staff.
Yeah, no, we do not operate that way.
Yeah, so but I do know in the market there are a lot of channels, a lot of big channels that are looking for staff. And I know commentators, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but it's a lot easier to find a commentator because it's less intensive. What is it like from a director side, finding a director, or if you're even looking for new ones or getting the ones that you have up to speed, how that process was? What is that like? Because I know it is not easy to find a good producer out there these days.
Oh, ours might be different from most. I really don't know how other people go about this, because I don't even know how we particularly go about this. We don't really go looking for directors. There's so much software and processes that are specific that it's stuff that you have to really trust the person. And also, I mean, passwords and stuff too, obviously. You have access to a lot of things as a director that we take great care on who is doing that. And over the years, honestly, we haven't had that many. And right now, we actually have 3. We would like more, but again, it comes down to, we prefer it's someone that we know very well and trust, and feel like can handle all the technical side. Because as you guys know, God, it's overwhelming. You have to have at least some knowledge.
ATVO theme editor, anybody?
There's a reason I leave that to Amjad. He handles all that.
So, and then I know from PTR TV, I had a Michael DeGroat. The only stream that was not produced by me, I mean, Brendan did a couple way back, but he didn't have a good PC. But in the modern era, it was me, and then I had just found a guy, and he was going to be able to do it, but, I mean, real life got in the way. He's a busy guy, kids, tough work schedule, so it didn't work. So tried getting a second producer for more content and take some break off me, and it didn't happen. Kyle and Finney, is that something that you guys have even considered as maybe trying to expand, or are you guys just kind of content with trying to get the name out with just 2 of you for the time being?
Well, I think for now, because we're both full-time college students, we're close to saturation. We could probably do maybe we do 4 broadcasts a week right now.
I think, yeah, that's where we're at.
I think we could probably do 5, but that, again, we have to focus on school first. I have wanted a third guy, but for what we charge right now, once you add a third person in, the slice of pie gets real thin, and you kind of have to keep it just Finian and I. The advantage, I don't know if we've mentioned this yet, but Finian and I, we lived in he's 10 feet away from me on the other side of this wall.
I'm on the other side. I can hear Kyle talking before it comes through. That's how close we are to each
awkward,
other.
probably.
But that changes how we broadcast things, because he can sit right next to me when we broadcast, and he can see the cameras that I'm choosing, and we're both watching the same exact feed, which is a unique thing in broadcasting, because I know a lot of the times the commentators just kind of have to go off what the director is telling them they should be watching. So that's a huge advantage for us. The disadvantage is that because it's only us 2, we kind of have to be a jack of all trades, and Finian takes care of all the promotional material, the cameras, the strategical stuff. I'm more, I do all the ATVO editing, the YouTube side of things, all the technical, OBS, all that stuff is what I take care of. So Yeah, it's very busy for us to get stuff ready, but I think the advantages when it comes down to broadcasting, being in the same room together is a huge advantage.
That honestly amazes me that what some of the smaller broadcasters can accomplish, because it feels like we have a huge team of people at this point handling all the things that you're talking about. Like I said, Sean does all social media and promoting. He schedules all the YouTube stuff. Amjad deals with making all the themes. I deal with staffing and creating all the lap guides. We have Dougie who's making the cameras. And honestly, this is why I'd kind of like to actually see the prices go up a little bit, because it is so intensive to make these broadcasts happen, and it takes a lot of work, skill, knowledge, and expertise to make it happen. So to me they're worth more, if anything.
Yeah.
So
like we had most of us know at this point there was a big name in the game that backed out a couple weeks ago, Cisco Scaramouza on LSR TV, and talked to him quite a bit, and he talked about that same thing. He did there was a lot of Adobe After Effects graphics, all the things that would make it come to real life, and he would spend days on days setting up race 17 of 20 for this series at Daytona. It was all separate animations, and he would do that. Like, you'd spend his days, all right, today's overlay day, all right, today's graphic day. And that kind of stuff, when even when you charge $70-$80 a broadcast, that doesn't mean that you're getting $40 or $50 for that. It's obviously and especially when you run as an actual registered business, which they are at LSR TV, you have those fees that are accounted for too. So it gets to the point where, do you want to be doing all that yourself? Like, I know I actually had a couple times in the past where, like, okay, I messaged my leagues and I said, all right, so I want to put new features in my overlays. I have 2 kids and I have a wife. I don't have time. If I skip your broadcast tonight, I'll help you out, and it'll be fancier when I get the next one. And they said, yeah, if I'm going to get a better broadcast, we'll either skip the race. And I had that kind of stuff happen because I only, like, for me personally, I only have a certain chunk of time every night or every other day or what have you to do stuff. So I am a perfectionist. If I see a flaw in the overlays, I got to fix it right away. If I see someone that does something fancy, I want to do something fancy too. But there's only so much time of the day, especially when we're not doing this full time for many of us. You have to operate within what you can do.
Yeah,
and that's Joe. Sorry, that's interesting to me because for us, really, the whole when we agree to put on a series, that is sacrosanct to us. It goes to air come hell or high water. The only times we don't bring a broadcast to air is if iRacing is down or YouTube is down. Otherwise, like, it's happening. And there's times where we do have an imperfect broadcast, but it's more for us. It's like it has to go to air because that's on the schedule, and we were hired to do this. Otherwise, to us, it's one of the worst failures we could have if it doesn't go on when we've agreed to.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say in terms of the cost of things, like I said, we're still at the pretty low end of the pricing scheme. But yes, to your point, Corey, it is definitely worth more. But the problem becomes, can you get that?
Yeah.
And again, I don't feel right now that we can charge more because our viewership is low because we're still starting, and that's fine. That's part of the growing process. That's fine. The problem is we do put a lot of time into this, and we're making less than minimum wage for sure.
Yeah, and that brings me, and this is probably from only me and Kyle. I don't know so much on your end, Joe, just because of your audience base. When you put a broadcast out there and you nailed everything and you had new overlay features in there and you brought this to life and you felt like you nailed the commentary and it was a great finish, everything went perfect, but you stopped the stream, 40 views, and then the next day you check it, 62, and the next day you check it, 69, and after 3 days it's pretty much at what it's going to be at. Does that not deter, but does that, like, come on, like, we put all that, we nailed it, and this is all that we got? Does that actually, like, kind of bug you in the end, or do you just kind of know, all right, we did the best we could, we got paid, it is what it is?
I think it's a little bit of that because, again, some of these leagues do care about viewership and do want as hundreds of views or thousands of views, whatever they can get. Some don't care, and if they don't care, I don't care. It's one of those things where, like, if they're satisfied with the product and all their league members get to go back and watch the race, and they enjoy it and they have a good time, and we get paid, I mean, both parties are happy there. It just becomes the issue of, are they looking for an audience? Are they trying to recruit people through these broadcasts? That it's kind of what the league wants.
Yeah.
I don't lose sleep at night because we only get 150 views on a video. But if they're coming to us with the expectation of viewership where we are in our
you almost have to be honest in the negotiation on that. Like, this is probably what we're gonna get, and hopefully we can get more. Hopefully, and I used an analogy with some guys the other day. Think of a channel as like it's an arena for a basketball game. Now the league is renting us, which is the channel, which is the arena. Now you're renting the arena, but that does not guarantee that it's going to sell out. It's up to you as the league to help sell tickets, but it's also us to help you populate the event. But at the end of the day, you're still paying the rent to that arena, and it doesn't matter if there's one person in the stands or it's a sellout. I mean, the arena's still happy, but are you happy with how many people showed up? That's like we said, it depends on, do you want to just be broadcasted, or are you doing it for publicity? Because it doesn't, at least on a smaller channel side, it's pretty hard to get both, to get everybody happy, I think.
Yeah. Not sure if Joe has anything, or Finian, any of you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, because I don't think...
I mean, it's an interesting topic for us because we do worry about the number of views, and we do try to make sure that views are up. We go and examine, okay, why is this one low? Why is this one high? What are there any extenuating circumstances? Because a lot of times, you're competing with big events with iRacing that are going on. So sometimes that pulls people away.
Yeah.
But the reason that we're more interested in it now is because we actually we have companies advertise with us. We sell ad space, and so now that makes a big difference. We want the eyeballs because that makes it more valuable to these companies that pay us for the ad space. So, and for that reason, obviously we do want leagues that put on quality races that entice people in that they want to watch. But it's more than just an ego boost and a satisfaction thing, but knowing that this is something that could pay our way. Because if we wind up getting somehow, if we blow up and we're making tens of thousands of views per video, that sells ads a hell of a lot better than getting just hundreds.
Yeah, so that...
sorry, I just wanted to kind of add another thing.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
In kind of on the opposite end of what Joe's saying, because for me and Kyle, it's only us two, and we're again really small. So for us, we really don't, and we also don't really have any channel sponsors. So I guess for us, really, it's more of if the people who the league we're broadcasting for, if everyone's happy at the end of the day, we'll get our sleep. Because we're not too worried about the views. It's more about if the people we're working for, if they're happy, then we're happy.
Well, another thing too is there are sponsors that we work with that are league sponsors, and we are blessed that both of the sponsors that we work with in our two main series, they're not there for the exposure necessarily. They're more to provide support to the league, and they don't really request a lot out of us. And I always feel like we should do more for them. And they haven't requested, they haven't asked us anything specific, but it's kind of nurturing those relationships is something that we're trying to do a little bit, because again, sponsorship, again, we have 215 subscribers. Yep. That's not going to get you anywhere, and I think that's a reality that we've come across is what we have to do is we have to work on our product, bring it to a higher level first, make relationships with the sponsors that we do have for the leagues. And, eventually you can get to that point, and that's good supplementary income for sure. And that kind of can offset your broadcast fees a little bit as well.
Yeah. And that is a perfect segue into topic 5, which is, where is broadcasting as a market, as a thing in general, where is it headed? Like, first off, where do we think it's headed at the current trend it's on? But where do we want it, or where do we think it could be or should be headed if it's actually if it goes where we want it to go? So with the current market right now, I think that, and I think I kind of have a different mindset than I think Joe, I actually hope that it shrinks a little bit. I hope that, and I think it's already happening, where PTR TV were out. I know another channel, PSI TV, they're out now. There's been a couple other channels I know that are on life support because of staffing. And I personally don't think that's bad, because going back to what we were talking about, iRacing, I think iRacing is too small for what we currently have. And I made an analogy before, because I love analogies. I need to grow up. But I take gaming, think of Twitch, YouTube, streaming, just all the streaming media. Think of it as the United States as a whole. And every game is a state. So you have Call of Duty, which is like a California. You have Fortnite, which is like Texas. Big markets. Grand Theft Auto is like Florida. Sim racing is like Maryland. It's tiny. So now we're taking that tiny genre of the streaming market, and then iRacing as a sim racing, not so much a Gran Turismo or Project Cars. We're a niche of it, and we're spreading that niche thin. Now, we want it to grow. We want sim racing to grow. So, like, to get onto a bigger NASCAR scale, we want it to grow, but it's not right now. So I think personally, I hope that it does shrink, so that what we do have for a niche watching it is, it looks better maybe to people on the outside looking in, like, oh, hey, there's 1,000 people watching this. That might actually be something worth getting into.
Yeah, actually, interesting that you mentioned this, because actually the other day on the iRacing forum, I got a PM about potentially broadcasting an F1 2018 League Series race. And,
Will Roberts in chat. That was funny.
But so I looked at that and I said, that's interesting. I have no idea how we're going to do that. I haven't actually answered this guy yet, so hopefully he's not watching. But I haven't thought about this, because branching out to other sims, I think, is a good way too. Like, imagine if RaceSpot did stuff for Assetto Corsa or Automobilista or stuff like that, or even F1 2018. People latch on to the personality. It's like Will Vincent for RaceSpot. I mean, people latch onto that kind of stuff. You could diversify that to the other sims and make all of them stronger if you can bring that same broadcasting away from the niche of just iRacing.
I actually earlier, I had an email for someone asking me for 20 races of Formula 1 2018.
It's probably the same guy.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee it is, because we heard from them too.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. Someone's looking for it, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to do graphics for that. So
I think it's interesting, and I completely agree about expanding to other sims not being a bad thing, because being able to branch out would allow these companies to get bigger and make this more of a respectable thing. But I think if anything, what we're going through right now and have been just recently in sim broadcasting is something of a phase, if you will. Like the accessibility, the ability to get in and do this has been democratized. And again, going back to coming from a film background, I graduated in 2006. YouTube had just come out, so imagine me watching, going from film school to where it's like, you have to go to Hollywood or whatever, and in 10 years that's not even a thing. You don't even have to do that anymore. The whole world has just been like, you produce and you get yourself noticed. And I think that's what's happened now with sim broadcasting is now it's easily doable, which means we got a flood of small companies, but we're seeing the ones that are sticking around. We're seeing the ones that had the knowledge to organize themselves to approach it in a way that's sustainable, and those are the ones that are going to stick around. So it's almost our Darwinian sort of thing happening. It's that we're weeding out the ones that are just kind of a flash and like, oh well, this was fun, but my life has more important stuff. So I'm not doing this anymore.
This guy, that was pretty,
good example,
right? Yeah, like I had fun. Like, we were getting to the point where I was doing 6 or 7 a week. I was on the portal. I mean, I say I because it wasn't just me, but just because I'm the only one here right now. But it was getting big. We were getting requests all the time. There was nights I could have done double duty, but for myself, and I know Kyle, I talked to you about this the other day. What do you want out of iRacing? And this is kind of something interesting, probably for all of us to talk about. We joined iRacing. I mean, I joined iRacing 2008 because I was NR 2003 was dead. I wasn't into R Factor, so I was like, oh hey, let me get into this, and I had fun. And I never would have in a million years thought I'd be doing it. I would have done this for almost 2 years, but I did, and I quite enjoyed it, and I got a lot of new friends and new colleagues from it, and a lot of new experiences, and I think I've actually developed kind of a new talent from it. I mean, if some people say I can commentate well, some people say I'm trash, whatever. I mean, to each their own, but I got to a point where I have a Rift, I have a T300 sitting here. I got to a point where I miss driving. I miss doing what I signed up for, and it's hard when you're commentating 5 days a week and you only have so much time in the day. It's like if I'm doing that one race I'm logging in that I knew I should be top 3 and going for the win, and I'm 12th, 13th because I can't hang on to the car because it's been so long since I've driven it. I missed it, and now I'm driving again and still doing a couple broadcasts that I got to finish out, but I've actually kind of been enjoying going back to my original reason I signed up for iRacing, and I guess that just, like I said, it depends what you want to get out of the sim.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the Corey mentioned something. I'm going to drag you off topic a little bit here. Sorry, but you said something about what do you want out of iRacing, and I guess I took that question a little differently and started thinking about what are the things that we as broadcasters would like, either for convenience or out of necessity, from iRacing to make this easier. I think a lot of it, for Finian at least, would be more camera controls and more ability to edit the cameras and do cooler things with that. But just from the broadcasting perspective, is there something that they could do to help us out? Because as we've seen, they're trying to put an increased emphasis on broadcasting with the iRacing Esports Network. Is there something that we should ask them to develop or to change or to work on to make our jobs easier?
Oh yeah,
there absolutely could be. Yeah, I can tell you right now.
There's stuff from the behind the scenes of data that can get transmitted out from the SDK that can go into the overlays. That there's stuff that maybe views within views. I mean, that'd be hard to do right now. People who want to have picture-in-picture to more extensive degrees, you have to have 2 accounts.
Everybody wants that.
2 working. Yeah, 2 work. That's double the 2 PCs, 2 accounts, 2 pieces, 2 full accounts worth of content.
They have to be in the same physical locations.
Yeah.
Finian, we could probably do that. I just realized.
So I thought about that, but yeah, it's really hard to do. And I mean, what I always find amazing, like talking about this, is that the fact that a lot of the broadcasting stuff that's being done, it was never designed for that in the first place, and it still barely is.
Not at all.
With broadcasting in mind, it's essentially we're all just watching the race as like supposed to be like a spectator.
Yeah.
And that's about it. But yeah, it would be cool if they could add some, like Kyle's saying with the cameras and stuff like that to make it more easy for broadcasters.
I mean, I'm sure all of us, our team speak, we have to have our notifications muted, so if I get moved out of a channel, I have no idea because I have to have it off. You got to turn off all your Windows pop-ups, all your Windows sound notifications, make sure your toolbar isn't going to do anything, because anything that accidentally pops up on that screen that automatically makes you look less professional makes it detract from the professionalism.
Even just like the one thing that drives me absolutely up the wall is, and there might be a way around this, I honestly don't know, but when a car leaves the world and the camera just goes to
yes,
please. How is that hard to change?
Just like, have it go to the next car or something. Just automatic.
Or just allow you to choose from an array of static cameras, like the pit lane cam or something, because then you could set up cameras that you could jump to while.
All right, here they are side by side. Oh, he's blinking out. Oh, here's a tree off of turn 4.
It's like, that's probably my biggest pet peeve is like, it's obviously, it was never designed for this, but if they're going to be pushing an esports network, I think that's something that they should focus more on.
Yeah, so...
Drew, you watching, Drew?
So going back to... Again, so I guess let me reword my original question. When you signed up for iRacing, originally, has your end product, your end focus, your end, like what you expect, I don't even know how to word this, but has what you signed up for iRacing for changed, like your actual main intrigue into the service changed now that you're a producer on a large scale for both of you?
Yes. I definitely, for me. Now, like I said, we do kind of artificially limit ourselves. We could do more broadcasts than we do. but we limit ourselves, A, to not dry it out because it would get really boring really quick, and B, to let us have time to drive. And Finny and I just started a league on Monday nights, actually, that we had an absolute blast in. But for me, the broadcasting has opened up so many opportunities on the driving side. Like I said, we're both in college. I can't afford the content. So doing broadcasting is actually, I own a crap ton of content now that I would have never had without broadcasting. It's how I pay for it. This is literally how I, that doesn't only put food on the table. I pay for iRacing with broadcasting. So, and I enjoy it too. I mean, like I said, Finn and I are motorsports fans, and whether it's digital or it's on the real racetrack, it's still real racing. It's still real competition. And I enjoy that. Yes, I do still enjoy driving. I don't race quite as much as I did before, but I still think I have a healthy balance that keeps me interested in the sim.
I think it's funny that you bring it up because whenever we have those threads on the forums about, well, I have to check with my wife to see if I could buy this or whatever, justify it. It's a lot easier when I can show the paycheck to my wife and be like, hey, look, yeah. I never have to ask permission to buy the content because I need the content.
Exactly. I mean, and Finian walked in pretty much 100% content owner, so he doesn't care about that, but he's just pocketing everything and living life on the...
I know my wife...
I don't know. For me, I guess it's helped because, again, we're only 20 years old, me and Kyle, so I guess I'm a little less dependent on my mom and stuff, and I have, like, some sort of income, so it's nice in that respect.
Well, and Finian, you and I have both, when I mentioned this earlier, we both upgraded our PCs a ton from where they were before we started broadcasting.
That too, yeah.
Because you don't need to have a Nintendo 64 broadcast, won't put any names out there, but you want to make sure that the content you're putting out, so you got to use what your income is. I mean, put it towards your business, and then obviously, if it does stuff outside, I mean, believe me, there's been like, oh, honey, let's go to dinner tonight, because, oh, hey, look what I got. Like, it works out, and it does make it worth it. I have a broadcast, and like you said, Joe, it works out that way, so... Is there any miscellaneous topic that any of you guys want to touch on before we start wrapping tonight's podcast up?
I actually did have a question, and this is really for Corey and Joe, because Corey distributed his overlays to do one of their races.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I watched that broadcast. Oh, I'm going to steal some of this.
Well, no, not only that. It's not only that. Like, by the way, I haven't done because I'm lazy and I don't want to get back into ATVO just yet. But one of the things that threw me off is the way that we do replays. Now, I'm not sure if Joe or Corey, if you know how we do this, but we do this really manually. So my screen setup, I have OBS on the far right of my two monitors, and I have three different scenes. I have the main racing, well, I have more scenes than that, but these are the three I use for broadcasting. There's a race broadcast theme that's just obviously the broadcast and the overlay. And then that's screen monitor capture. I have another theme, or scene rather, that is just our replay animation graphic thing, and that's all that just loops. And then I have another scene that is iRacing game capture, so there's no overlay.
Yep, I actually have. I didn't think anyone else did that.
And so what we do is we'll jump to that middle scene while we go find it in the replay, and that gives us a little bit more flexibility. So, because one of the things that drives me nuts on some broadcasts is they don't have a splash screen for the replays, so they're just jumping around and the cars are just going backwards, and you're just skipping around in the replay, and it's very disorienting. So it gives us a lot of control. It's not as seamless as it is if you do something with an ATVO, but it still allows me to have the screen space without putting overlay.
I'm gonna actually say that what you guys do, and I know Cisco did it, and he wanted me to do it, and I refused to do it because I'm just lazy. Is it's better what you do, because you can, right now, what I do, if there's a wreck, if I catch it on camera right away, I know to go back about 20 seconds. Because my screen is about, my movie thing is about 6 seconds. Time that goes away, it gives me a couple seconds of prelude of, all right, you can see, hey, they might be getting loose, and then the wreck happens. If I don't catch it right away, or one of my commentators has to, he's like, oh, it happened right here, and I'm trying to go back and find it, then it's just a guessing game of, let's go back 30 seconds and pray. Or sometimes I'll be like, all right, 30, and then I'll do 10 just to make... It's a guessing game, but what you guys do is, you might have that splash screen up for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, but when you go back, boom, I already sifted through forward and backwards. Here's the perfect possible angle of this.
Right.
But I know from, commentating and producing, when you're doing it at the same time, the more you have to button press, the more you have to switch between, the more likely you are to screw up. So I don't want to go back to OBS and say I'll miss it, and then the rest of the broadcast is a replay screen. I don't trust myself, which is the only reason I do it that way.
It's complicated for sure, and it's something that you kind of have to be quick with it. And Finian is, again, having him sitting next to me, being able to point to certain things on the ATVO timing screen, that's super helpful too. But the way that we do it, like you said, it's that way we can choose the exact angle that we want. We can go back, we can look, we can play around and see who saw what, and that way it's not a guessing game. So we kind of get to preview it while that splash screen is on. So it's not super efficient, but I'm just curious, Joe, like, do you use the ATVO way, or how do you guys do that?
You guys are going to find this really interesting. We don't even use OBS, actually. We use XSplit.
Okay. First one I know is to use that. I knew other people use the Wirecast, but
yeah. So you can actually have stingers within XSplit, which is how we have our little transition screen. So you only need the two. You need the replay and the live scene, basically, to switch back and forth between. As far as I found it interesting that you mentioned the 20-second, because that's kind of the rule I go by as well. 20 seconds on oval and 30 on road. And it very much to me is more of a feel thing, like you described. Like you have to kind of learn to gauge how much time has passed and get a sense of that. And we also the commentators kind of know that that's how it works too. So we have the commentators help us out. So a lot of times, if you hear on our broadcast, the commentators, I'm pulling the curtain back here, they'll say this was about 30 seconds ago or whatever. They're letting the director know how far back they need to go because the director didn't see where it is. So
right. And that's a level of communication that I'm personally thankful we don't have to deal with, because he can just nudge me and poke me and prod me and do whatever he needs to do to tell me where things are. But subliminal messaging, it works.
It's like where me personally, I don't have TeamSpeak notifications on, so I do broadcasts with different people who are used to poking, and the producer, I'm like, well, I don't hear a ding because I can't, because it'll pop up. So you can poke me all you want, I'm not going to see it. So you kind of need that. That live feedback that you guys can give each other is great, but otherwise it is more pressure on the producer if the commentators don't actually say, oh, hey, let's look off of turn number 2.
Yeah. And then, and that's the thing. Well, it comes down to just kind of understanding how each other work and knowing what sort of information you need to give them. Like a lot of times I will say which corner something happened in, so the director can kind of think like, all right, how far back is that usually in the lap? This is how far back I need to go, sort of thing. It's this weird dance that you just kind of have to learn and get used to with one another, as far as I'm concerned. But definitely part of it comes down to the technology and your familiarity with it.
Yeah. So we are about to, as I called this, I wanted about an hour, and we're on about an hour 15. I knew we were going to go long, and that's perfectly fine. I had some good conversation tonight, so looks like we now have our largest audience we've had watching live, which that's what happens. Audience. That's about what always happens when you're about to end something, is everyone always comes at the very end. So for those who have just tuned in, Corey Silva, PTR TV / LSR TV, Kyle and Finian from Simwood TV, and I always get yelled at because I always called it SYM TV. I didn't know what it was, but Sim TV with a Y.
Oh, if only you knew what it stood for.
Oh no, don't.
We're Geserk. Thank you.
Yes, and Joe Peak from Geserk, GSRC, Global Sim Racing Channel. We've all been talking tonight about the whole wonderful world of iRacing broadcasting. We've talked about the pricing, the saturation, where we've all come individually, where we are now, and where we hope it goes. So while we kind of waffle on for a little bit, if anybody of the people watching has a live question for any of us, this is your time to ask. We can see Joe White from OSR Network. He's agreed with most everything I've said. Usually people don't agree with me, so that's actually kind of nice to see that. I know he does a lot of good work. He is one of the larger channels. I usually reference large channels as if you're over 1,000, I call you large. And he's, I don't know exactly, but I know he's, I think about 1,500, if not more than that at this point. He does a great job. So, but he is someone, and again, Q&A, please, if you have any questions, put them in chat right now. He used to be, anyways, one of the cheapest commentators, broadcasters out there, and not in the sense of, oh god, it's a $5 job, it's a crap. No, he was on the cheaper end, but provided one of the clearest pictures, great commentary, excellent overlays. But because he did it for a different reason. He did it because he loves it, not so much for the monetary side. And it does show, like you guys, Kyle and Finian, there are other guys out there that are willing to do it for cheaper, but it gets to a point where you kind of, like we said, you need the money for what you're putting into it. The labor of love eventually needs to turn into the finances to keep it sustaining.
Right, and one of the things I'm going to mention real quick is there was a thread a couple months ago on the forums. I'm not sure if Joe or Corey, you saw this, but there was a discussion about broadcasts and people undercutting with broadcast fees.
I think I actually started that post, to be honest with you.
That was you.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things, I thought about it for a little while, and the thing is, if you're charging $5 or $10 for a broadcast, if it's worth even going to a $5 or $10 broadcast, the guy doing it is not going to want to do it after he does it for a week, because you're going to realize real quick that it's worth so much more. You're not going to want to do it for that little. And I think that it's kind of a self-policing thing. I mean, and we're probably undercutting a little bit too, but again, we don't have the viewership to really ask for more. But that was a kind of a concern, because you have these newer groups coming in, they're using borrowed overlays or something. They come in and charge $5 to $10, and you think for a second, oh, well, that's not really fair. But people will go pay that, and I just don't think that the broadcasters charging that are going to do that for very long, because they realize very quickly it's not worth their time.
It goes back to the natural growth. If they really enjoy doing it, like you said, they'll learn to raise their prices, and that's exactly how GSRC has been over the years. As we slowly edged up our prices because we realized we could charge more, and we need to charge more for the time that we're putting in.
Yeah,
it wasn't out of greediness. It was just like, I would like to have dinner tonight. Sort of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely encourage that. I do think maybe start a little higher than $10. That's
for sure.
Because we get people who come on, send us stuff, and when I tell them our prices, we can go to so and so and get that. It's like,
do it.
Great, cool. Yeah, it's like
you're not offending me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a different market, so it's like I don't take not that we have that issue, because we're far down the list that I don't think people generally complain about our prices, but it's one of those things. It's like you're not going to offend us if you don't want to pay that. There's enough space in the market for several different tiers of broadcasts, and if you want to pay more money, I mean, go to GSRC. You'll get a better product
if you're in the mood for McDonald's. If you're in the mood for going to TGI Fridays, or if you want to go to Cheesecake Factory, take your bet.
Exactly.
I'm not going to try to be what I'm not going to be.
Exactly.
And this brings back to what we were talking about early on, and that we are actually competing with one another. The way I always tell people, because yes, we're competing with one another on business, but to me, I see it as like we're all just different flavors of ice cream. Not everybody likes chocolate. Not everybody likes vanilla.
Racist.
So
I had to.
Yeah. So people go to what kind of product they want, because everybody offers something different, and that's okay.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, so doesn't look like we have any questions in chat. Thanks, Joe White, for joining in with us tonight, and thanks everybody for joining in with us tonight. If anyone have a final comment, anything they want to say about their channel, anything?
Should we tell them, Finian?
Oh God.
Well, I don't even know what you're planning on, but
about the name.
Oh, I mean.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're pregnant.
No. I might be. But
can I be the godfather?
Well, I guess now we haven't really met. I think there's only like 5 people that know this, but we should probably explain where our channel name came from, because it's not as simple as you might think.
I think
it's not sim with a like sim racing, but hey, that's already taken, so let's add a Y.
That's correct. It's not that.
Okay.
And you're going to be really disappointed, and you're never going to look at us the same way. But this stems back a long time, a long time for me, back to 2011. I got back into Flight Simulator, and I went to join the Flight Simulator X forums, and I was going to choose a username. And it was one of those fields where you have to put in and check and see if it's already been taken, and all the ones I usually used were gone. So I was eating lunch, and I looked down, and I was eating strawberry yogurt. And I'm not sure if you can tell where this is going. But
Strawberry yogurt TV?
I was like, strawberry yogurt. I was like, let's roll with that. So I carried that all the way to into iRacing when I created my team Sim Motorsports. So the
strawberry yogurt motorsports.
So here's the thing: it gets worse. I promise you, it gets worse. I didn't want it to just be Sim Motorsports.
Oh, I wish I did not on webcam right now.
So I called it Sim Motorsports, and the full name is Strawberry Yogurt Motorsports. And we are Strawberry Yogurt Motorsports TV.
Is that something you really want to say? Because if this gets on the forums and someone types that...
I just thought that needed to get out.
You're gonna have a meme tomorrow. I hope you don't. I may be the one to make
please
it.
Race in one of our leagues so that we can get Bills on to say Strawberry Yogurt Motorsports.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say Bill Cosby anymore after the past week of reality, but I could just imagine, just they had a face with like pudding all over around him, and I can just imagine getting your face shot off Facebook and then just putting strawberry yogurt all around it. Want me to broadcast your race? Oh my god, I'm doing that.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't even like totally intentional. Like when I made it, like when I first made the team, I was like, oh, sim, like simulation.
And it just worked.
It's good, and it just works. So I kept it, and there it is. So I feel it feels real good to get off my chest. I haven't told anybody that in a long time, and it feels better.
Finian, did you know that?
Oh, I've known like the first, like you're like, I'm gonna create a team, and like it's Sim Motorsports, and then he told me, and I was like, that's stupid. And then when we needed a name for the Sim TV, we were like, well, the team's called Sim Motorsports, just transfer it over because it sounds cool. So,
and no one ever questions it because it's just like a play on. Sim. And that's also
I hope
why
this
it's
video
all
goes
caps.
viral. I hope people timestamp the end of it.
It's an acronym. It's all caps. That's why it's like that. If it was sim, like a play on simulation, it would just be capital S, lowercase y and m. So
clip this out and make this your channel promo that everybody sees.
Speaking of channel promo, we should probably do one of those. But Finian.
And Joe, I don't know if you have any backstory of that nature, but anything you want to wrap up tonight with?
God, that's hard to top. I am hard pressed.
Tell us your deepest, darkest secrets. I already got mine out.
I was gonna say you don't want to know my deepest, darkest secrets. I'm already a public figure. I don't need that. I guess one of the things that I didn't get to touch on earlier, if we're telling funny stories, that I thought of earlier, is that. When someone mentioned doing like a cut together of like goofs during the broadcast, we had one fan a couple years ago who had a really difficult name. It was Molotov.
Oh my god!
Yeah, imagine seeing
Brandon
that spelled
Krutz,
out.
do you want that one?
Yeah, and this was in a race that it was in an official race that we couldn't see. It was a team race too, so we couldn't see them until we had already started. So we had no chance to practice and see this name, and we botched it so many times. We tried forever to get it right, and this guy took all the clips from this 3-hour race of us trying to say his name and made a supercut of us botching it over and over again. We thought it was hilarious. We
is that still up anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you gotta link that.
If you link it right now, if you could find it in the next 2 minutes, I will get it on this stream. So,
well, and speaking about names, we have there's a guy whose last name in the Fuel Cup series, his name is McQuistion is his last name, but the way it's spelled, my brain hurt, and it was a long night, and I said Inquisition instead, and that was not right.
Oh my god, the amount of times that Brandon and I have gotten the track wrong. Welcome to Richmond International Raceway. We're at Michigan. Oh, we are? or what was it? I don't know. I was trying to be really fancy before one broadcast. I'm like, oh, tonight's coverage of Gateway Motorsports Park live in the Missouri, and then Evan was like, because he lives in Missouri, it's in Illinois, and then we had a whole banter of, it is. And then I'm like looking at a map, and I'm like, oh my god! But we've done that kind of stuff before. Brandon, he called the pace car because he was trying to be fancy. He's like the iRacing.com Facebook, like. Wait, pace car? Like, why did you just call the pace car a Facebook? And that one went...
Well, Finian one time needed some coffee in a broadcast and called brake rotors. He called them brake rudders, like the thing that steers the boat. No, that's not right.
It's really funny as a commentator, you know, we make fun of people on TV, but it's funny because, like, just the way our brains work, it's like when we're just about to say something, and then if we're tired of something, we just say the wrong words.
I was like, here he comes. They got Pocono. There was one time. All right, they're side by side off corner number exit. Like, oh my god. So
aggressive goes around.
Oh god, he spins into the yogurt, but so because here we are running a half hour late now, but this has been a really good night. This is the Racer's Mind PTR TV. You're not going to see broadcasts on this channel, but I know Brandon's working on some actual compilation content. I'm doing a montage. I'm getting clips as we speak. Well, not as we speak, but I am working on it like a little bit each week, trying to find some clips I know from the past. So I do love doing these though. So if anybody has stuff they want us to talk about, if we have stuff we want to talk about, and I love having partners on that know all about this. So I love to do more of these, and it's probably where PTR TV is going to go. You're going to see our content on LSR TV to the end of the season, and then I'm not going to say I'm going to throw away my overlays, but I mean, I'm not really playing anything for 2019. I'm planning on racing. I'm planning on getting back to my old school iRacing life of driving, and I did love what I did. Love what I'm still doing for a little bit longer, but I hope to see GSRC. I hope to see it take off and get bigger, and Strawberry Yogurt Motorsports TV. I genuinely hope, all jokes aside, if you guys, I mean, it's been on the screen off and on during this podcast. You guys do an excellent job, and you deserve a lot more than you get. You deserve a bigger sub count than some channels that have 10 times your sub. So if you guys aren't subbed to them, check them out. If you're not subbed to GSRC, which I don't know why you wouldn't be, because most everyone is, you should be as well. And PTR TV, LSR TV, check us out. I mean, the content's all still there. It's always fun going back and watching how we've progressed and how the commentary was probably horrible on day one, and how we are now. We've all grown.
I don't want to watch my early ones.
Yeah, I can't.
Really.
But
by the way, I shot you the link in a PM there. I couldn't put it in the YouTube chat.
Oh god. We have time, folks. We have time. I have to go into my settings and unmute the volume. Oh, actually, it should be. So let's watch this together, shall we? Actually, can I get this full screen? Can I get this full screen? I can! I have the technology. Alright. Oh wait, that's the wrong video. Actually, where did you said you sent it to me, Joe?
I sent it over a poke on TeamSpeak.
You want to try that again?
Sure.
Me no see. The user, everyone is just waiting in anxiety right now.
I don't have permission to type chat in the
oh yeah, it's
text chat for this either.
Yeah.
Try now. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Hey.
Yay! All right, now, without further ado,
there's the Watkins Glen track guide.
So Dennis Grabowski for the Curb Surfers. Who is going to take over? Looking on their team, it looks like Ilya Oh my goodness, Ilya Molotovskishkov. Yes, Ilya Smith. There we go.
Oh man.
Ilya Molotovskishkov. There we go.
Gap has now shrunk to 3 seconds from John Ancala up to Ilya Smith. And yep, and now there is open track between John Ancala and Ilya Smith.
I love his title of the video too.
Buffering? What are you talking about?
Molotov.
There we go.
I'm just gonna say, I'll say the first name and I'll let you say the last
I'll say the first name. You can say the last name.
Molotov.
Molotov. There we go.
All right.
Unfortunately, it was Ancala that made the mistake through the last chicane. You can see that gap has gone up.
Oh, he missed the Molotov had a horrible exit through one. Missed the apex altogether. I don't think they're going to get there now. Another thing I've seen Molotov in this whole run. That's what I'm saying.
Bill has the worst
may have a little more car left than Molotov needs. No more laps. The fewer laps, the better. So
off of the line, Ilya Molotov is going to win for the Curb Surfers here at Zolder.
Ilya Molotov is my hero. What a great drive from him. Can you pronounce your partner's name for us? Molotov? Can you say that first?
Molotov.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming and talking to us, Dennis. Again, congratulations.
Better exit through 4 for Molotov that time. Got a much better drive into the first chicane.
As we got that information about Molotov, something must have slowed down Molotov.
The other thing is Molotov.
Because it is down to one. Great job by Molotov to just see that coming, give him that little bit of space, and then focus on a better exit off the hairpin, because that saved him there. 0.3 seconds between Ancala and Molotov. And they're looking even stronger now. Ilya Molotov has withstood the pressure, rebuffed the attacks.
All right, that was a good watch, but and that's what happens sometimes when we're live. So again, thanks for that clip, and thanks to you guys for coming out and helping me out with this and having a good time. Want to again thank all the viewers for tuning in, and this is The Racer's Mind, and we will catch you next time.